The girl is an orphan living in the boondocks, but she was chosen by God as the child of destiny. She is also a child on whom the entire empire places high hopes. But no one knows that this is already his fourth life, and his previous 3 lives all ended tragically. In the first life, under the arrangement of the Empress Dowager, Laughlin chose Duke Amadier to be his adoptive father. He is a righteous knight praised by everyone. At first, he did treat Laughlin gently, although later Laughlin always inadvertently felt that he was being ignored. But for him, who was once an orphan, just having a father was already happy enough. But as time went by, he still failed to show the legendary divine power. When the temple and the royal family gradually lost patience, another girl, Minda, appeared. Compared to Laughlin, who is not ashamed of anything, he is simply a perfect existence. Not only does she have pure divine power, but her appearance is quiet. She also bears a striking resemblance to the Duke's deceased first love. Mina was soon adopted and became increasingly close to the Duke. But Laughlin was accused of being a fake destiny child. He was also accused of poisoning Mina in a contribution and was completely disgusted by his adoptive father. In the end, he was sent to the altar as a sacrifice to become part of the seal of the evil spirit. The second is Laughlin, shows Duke Valois to be his adoptive father. But I didn't expect. This prominent nobleman is secretly a brutal pervert because Laughlin has no divine power. Duke Valois often beat him until he was beaten to death. The third wife, Laughlin, who was completely disheartened, ran away. But a penniless child, where can he escape? In the end, he could only be humiliated in the pile of beggars and starved to death on the street alone. 3 times of return. 4 lives, Laughlin, who was reborn again, looked in the mirror and breathed out resignedly. Here we go again. This terrible life has to be repeated again. But this is his goal. Very simple. Find a place where you can live safely until adulthood and easily get away. 3 adoptive fathers. The candidates' portraits were sent to him again. His eyes finally stopped at the last one, holding heavy troops and huge wealth. He is also called the Empire's #1 villain, Duke Dewald. In the previous 2 lives, he didn't choose him because he was afraid of his notoriety. This time, he can only take a gamble. The man has a handsome face, but his ice blade-like blue eyes are chillingly cold. Laughlin looked at this man who was about to become his father and was momentarily suffocated by that face. This kind of person. Why would he remain unmarried for life after losing his wife? But the man's words were even colder than his appearance. He glanced at Laughlin Yugi, who was sent over without any warmth. That old guy is confused, right? Quickly send this thing back. The adjutant looked unpredictable. The Empress Dowager said, "This is an opportunity to repair your relationship with the temple. It might not be good to refuse directly." From Laughlin's experience, neither the temple nor the Empress Dowager can truly coerce this man. But for the sake of a free life in the future, he must stay. Save enough money in this wealthy family, and then disappear completely. Live a happy life of lying flat for the rest of your life. So now he has to call the police. Duke Dewald's big head. Laughlin mustered his courage and shouted loudly in the direction of the Duke. 12 yuan, there will be a surprise tax raid in the past. Without review, the voice fell. The surroundings suddenly fell into a strange season. Laughlin bit his lip in annoyance. His development is faster than his peers. He always slurs his words. They definitely didn't understand this time, but this is the only bargaining chip he can offer. Suddenly, a big hand lifted him up. Duke Dewald's beautiful face suddenly was close at hand. His icy blue eyes stared at him. "Are you saying there will be a surprise tax audit on December 7th? Laughlin was stunned. He actually understood. He quickly tried to put on a childlike, innocent expression, raised his finger and put it to his lips. It must be a secret. Too much influence on the man's scrutinizing gaze. Silently praying in his heart, "Please understand, I am useful to you, so please adopt me." "Duke." The Duke looked at the adjutant with a questioning tone. "Do you believe that a 4-year-old child knows what a surprise tax audit is? Your subordinate will send someone to verify it." The eyes of the big and the small met. Laughlin was unsure. "I don't know if this trick will work." But he remembers very clearly that the Duke suffered a major loss because of this in his previous life. The Duke frowned. There was a hint of impatience in his deep voice. "This guy smells like a stray horse. Your subordinate will arrange for the young lady to take a bath." Laughlin pressed down. "Not good." "Is it just a bath? Will you send me back after washing?" "Absolutely not." He didn't have time to think too much. He suddenly rushed towards the Duke, jumped up and hugged his leg. "Want to grab the lifeline and hold on tightly." The Duke picked him up and frowned. "What are you doing?" Laughlin stretched out his little hand to him and babbled for a hug. A trace of displeasure and confusion flashed across the Duke's face. "Stop messing around." But Laughlin didn't want to die painfully again. I don't want to be reborn again and again without hope. I just need a little food and a corner. I don't expect to be loved anymore. So, please. He stretched out his little arms with all his might and tightly wrapped them around the Duke's neck, burying his face in his neck. I like you the most. Please let me stay here. The Duke's body instantly stiffened. Wigdertiver is the country with the largest territory in the world. For a long time, power has been held by the temple, the royal family, and the 5 great dukes. The triangle formed by these families maintains the balance. But in Lefren's memory of the future, this triangle will inevitably collapse. Only one of the 5 great duke families will remain. Dubold, becoming a powerful entity. Although Lefren tried his best to express his love, the Duke still didn't agree to adopt him. But fortunately, he was given a temporary place to stay. Lefren didn't freeload either. These days, he has been paying his rent in his own way. For example, inadvertently revealing information about the temple and the royal family to the Duke's retainers. The retainers were amazed by his intelligence. How do you know these things? It's incredible. As expected, the Child of Destiny is different. His memories from before his rebirth are his most powerful weapon, but they also have limitations. Using the body of a 4-year-old child to operate with the thoughts of an adult is too difficult. Once he thinks too deeply or gets too angry, his rationality will quickly fade, and he'll revert to being a pure child, because the retainers thought he was cute and wanted to pat his head. Lefren shrank back like a frightened animal, suddenly hiding in the Duke's arms. The young lady is clearly shy, but she's always clinging to the Duke. It's really strange. However, she's not doing it on purpose, because she was abused. She's filled with fear towards unfamiliar adult men. Only when she's by the Duke's side did she feel a strange sense of security. The meeting ended, and everyone left one after another. The last old minister walked up to Lefren with a smile and handed him a piece of candy. Thank you for sharing your stories. He was trying to unwrap the candy when a large hand suddenly reached out and took the candy away. Lefren was stunned. A huge sense of grievance welled up in his heart. To snatch candy from a child, even a villain would be going too far. But the next second, the Duke neatly tore open the candy wrapper and gently tossed the candy into his mouth. The Duke watched him and asked in a low voice, "If you go back to the capital and someone gives you candy, will you tell them about my family's affairs?" Lefren shook his head. Why would I? Because I'm on the Duke's side. The palace, the temple, and the other Duke families had all tormented him. Until now, only the Dubold family hadn't caused him any pain. Moreover, the Duke was far less cruel than rumored. Lefren looked up, and suddenly, he saw that the corners of his mouth seemed to curve up a little. At this moment, the maid, Leah, walked in. The Duke threw him directly to Leah. Sure enough, how could someone as cold as him smile? I must have been mistaken. Although the Duke was aloof, he was surprisingly generous in raising a child. Not only did he arrange for several maids for Lefren, but he also made sure his needs for food, drink, and play were met. But in order to live in the Duke's mansion for a long time, Lefren secretly launched his little strategy. By acting cute, flattering, and using various tricks, he successfully won the favor of 3 maids and became their darling. These were all survival skills he had learned in the Valois Duke's mansion in his previous life. Even if he wasn't liked by the master, as long as the maids were willing to protect him, he wouldn't have too bad of a life. And the one he was most attached to was Leah. In the first few days after Lefren arrived, he was ostracized by others for not possessing divine power. Only Leah took the initiative to stand up for him. How quiet. Isn't it shameful to discuss these things in front of a child? Even though he didn't deliberately try to please Leah, she was always gentle with him. If he had a mother, that's probably what it would feel like. Late at night, Lefren was awakened by the rumbling sounds in his stomach. Oh no, if I get hungry, I won't be able to maintain my adult rationality. It must be because I fell asleep that the maids didn't have the heart to wake him up for a meal. Thinking of this, Lefren was filled with regret. Once his mental state becomes unstable, he'll turn into a truly troublesome child. Knowing he shouldn't run out at this time, he couldn't control himself and just wanted to find something to fill his stomach. The fear of hunger instantly overwhelmed his mind. Those were the most unforgettable memories from his previous 2 lives. In his second life in the Valois Duke's mansion, he was locked in the attic and starved for several days. Later, he escaped due to extreme hunger and was severely beaten when he was discovered. In his third life, as a beggar, he could only watch others eat with longing eyes and eventually starved to death. Lefren groped around in the Duke's mansion in the dark and finally found a piece of hard, stale bread. In the servants, he hugged it like a treasure and ran back. If he ate it back in his room, he wouldn't be discovered. But he was running too fast and bumped into something, falling to the ground. Lefren looked up and gasped. Duke Dubold was looking down at him with a gaze darker than the night. He looked especially terrifying at night. Lefren lay on the ground, subconsciously protecting the bread in his arms. His hands and feet trembled uncontrollably. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that Chanchimina had once fallen on Amity Duke West and talked about being sentenced for stealing bread. Death for stealing bread. Recalling Mina's carefree tone, Laughlin felt a chill. What are you doing in my castle? Laughlin kept feeling like he was definitely going to die this time. The Duke and the cold servant. You are eloquent and exceptionally intelligent. No wonder you were sent by the Empress Dowager to monitor my family. Identify the child of destiny. No, it's not. I hate liars the most, especially those who pretend to be innocent and say they are on my side. The Duke stroked his chin, deliberately dragging out the tone. You little mouse. How should I deal with you? Laughlin shrunk into a small ball, clasping his hands together and begging repeatedly. I was wrong. I shouldn't have stolen. The Duke frowned, explained clearly. Did you steal money, a sacred object, or military intelligence? But no matter what he asked, Laughlin just kept shaking his head. The Duke lost his patience. What exactly did you steal? Laughlin cried, and held the hidden thing over his head. Stole bread. The gasp was particularly clear in the silent room. Laughlin shed tears, while gnawing on the dry bread in his hand. It's you face to face. Leah stepped forward and explained in a low voice. Miss went to bed early and didn't have dinner. So she got up in the middle of the night and ate the bread that the servants threw away. Leah's face was pale, biting her lower lip tightly, as if she was the one who had made the mistake. The Duke sighed and reached out to Laughlin, but he was so scared that he immediately threw himself into Leah's arms. The Duke's hand hung in the air. A moment of silence. The little guy who was so clingy before. How did he suddenly become like this? The butler carefully explained. Miss is probably frightened by what happened just now. In fact, Laughlin doesn't hate the Duke. But at that moment, he really thought he was going to die. Seeing that he was still shaking, Leah took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind. He is the Duke's eyes, with determination, like a knight charging single-handedly towards the enemy. Sir, Miss needs to eat and rest. I'll take her back first. The close butlers and maids all widened their eyes. The Duke's gaze lingered on Laughlin for a long time, and finally nodded almost imperceptibly. The maids were relieved, and carefully left the room. As the head maid of the Dubold family, Leah knows the Duke's ruthless methods well, and the actions just now made her feel scared. Laughlin looked guilty. I'm sorry, Leah. I'm so hungry. Leah hugged him tightly, her voice gentle. Don't say that. Little babies need to eat and sleep more to grow up well. Laughlin was moved to tears. At this moment, he was even more determined to stay here, because Leah is here. A few days after the bread incident, Laughlin regained his vitality. He strolled happily around the mansion, greeting the servants he met, enjoying the good times, until he met the Duke again. Laughlin immediately hid to the side. I must be good, otherwise I might be kicked out. He was about to sneak away, when the Duke suddenly said, wait a moment. He froze in place instantly. The adjutant's forehead was sweating, trying to smooth things over. Sir, perhaps you can gently call Mrs. Name, and she will feel more at ease. Laughlin pouted, thinking in his heart, no, Mr. Adjutant, the Duke probably doesn't know my name. I bet he didn't even look at the adoption papers sent by the Empress Dowager. Come with me. The Duke walked to a door, reached out and pushed it open. This is for you. Laughlin was stunned for a moment, and peeked into the room. But it was dark inside, and he couldn't see anything. If he causes trouble everywhere, just lock him up here. Laughlin looked back at the two of them suspiciously. The Duke wouldn't be so despicable, would he? Laughlin, the Duke suddenly called out his name. Laughlin was stunned. He actually knows. The Duke reached out, with 2 candies lying in his palm. These things are everywhere here. The light was turned on. Laughlin could finally see clearly that the room was actually filled with cookies, candies, and all kinds of snacks. Oh my God, is this really not a dream? Just because the girl woke up hungry in the middle of the night and stole a piece of dry bread, the cold Duke mistakenly thought she was a lowly woman stealing information. Looking at the soft, cute dumpling, who was still clinging to him and acting cute yesterday, but was now scared and avoiding him, the Duke felt inexplicably irritable. He immediately arranged a temporary treasure trove to show his apology. A sweet fragrance wafted over, and Laughlin's eyes lit up instantly, as if he had stepped into a fairy tale world. He pounced over, eating happily and squinting his eyes. But enjoying it alone seemed a bit too much. He turned around and tried to tiptoe, handing a cookie to the Duke. The Duke didn't take the cookie, his gaze falling on his chubby cheeks. He reached out and gently pinched it, as if possessed, like a little squirrel. His tone was gentle, even he didn't realize it. Laughlin leaned into his arms, giving him a hug full of cream. Thank you. After all, the better the relationship with the Duke, the more stable the future days will be. This trick obviously worked well. The Duke's eternally frozen lips finally raised a slight smile. The days that followed were relatively peaceful and warm, only occasionally when stealing candy and being caught by the Saint Leah would it be a bit tense and exciting. Miss, eating too much candy will cause tooth decay. Grandpa Jiasheng, he even gave him a cute elephant backpack. Really for me. Thank you, Grandpa. Loveline looks mighty with it on. but he secretly plans to use it to pack things when he runs away. However, one day, Leah suddenly dresses him up very grandly. Today, the young lady will be formally introduced to the vassals, and there are also children who are planned to be sponsored. The young lady might make some friends. The so-called sponsorship system is actually a tradition for nobles to select talents. Children who receive sponsorship will receive comprehensive training and support. Therefore, top noble family sponsorship qualifications are always highly competitive. Lovelane can't help but wonder, what kind of person would the Dubald family favor? Leah leads Lovelane into the reception room, only to see the vassals praising a young boy. Young Master Kyuga is so clever. He can remember all of our names. Lovelane lifts her skirt and curtsies obediently. Her cute appearance instantly attracts everyone's attention. The boy, whose attention was taken away, glances at him unhappily. The moment their eyes meet, Lovelane's whole body trembles. How is it this guy? Marco, one of the worst people Lovelane has ever met. One of them, Second Life Lovelane, or the young lady of the Valois Duke, once studied at the Royal Academy. At that time, Marco was a professor at the academy, but he relied on his status and age to approach Lovelane with various excuses, actually pestering her, touching her. What he wanted was nothing more than to become the son-in-law of the Duke of Valois, to climb up the social ladder, join the upper class. But Marco's behavior was extremely disgusting. Lovelane couldn't bear it, and finally mustered the courage to expose his behavior. However, Marco falsely accused her, slandering Lovelane for actively seducing him. If I had bad intentions towards him, why didn't he report it from the beginning? Why wait until now? At that time, Lovelane was completely helpless. She never thought that someone 10 years older than her, a professor who should be respected, would harbor such dirty thoughts. Marco's contemptuous performance seemed to still ring in her ears. If you really hate it, why don't you call you? Actually, you're willing, right? But at that time, fear made her stiff all over, and she couldn't even make a sound. In the end, Lovelane's report was ignored. Marco was only deducted half a year's salary, but she was labeled as promiscuous and kicked out of the academy. Now, just thinking about it, Lovelane wants to beat him up, but now is not the time. The other party is just a child now, and she has no reason to attack. Marco is showing Jiasheng the formula he has researched, winning a round of exclamations, truly a young talent. But Lovelane knows he is a liar. In her previous life in the academy, he only got a professor position because of his parents. Now these formulas are probably the result of his parents spending money to hire someone to write them. The Q&A ends. Marco takes the initiative to sit next to Lovelane, but no one pays attention to him. He leans over and whispers in her ear, smugly and contemptuously, see that? People like you will never beat me. You imposter. Lovelane is speechless. This person is afraid that a 4-year-old child will threaten him, and mistakenly thinks that she is also a sponsorship candidate. Lovelane doesn't want to play with idiots, and decides to ignore him, but the other party keeps pestering her. I heard you're a poor thing, thrown into the Dubald trash heap by the Empress Dowager, because you and they are all trash. If it were in her previous life, the simple Lovelane might have become inferior and silent because of descendants. But now, experiencing her 4th life, she will never let anyone humiliate her like this. A small fist suddenly swings up and starts beating that smug face. A series of punches. This move stunned everyone present. Finally, a punch directly hits the opponent's eye. The neat movements made the mates cheer. Young lady is so cool. Kyudi's father, the Baron, rushed over upon hearing the news and was completely dumbfounded when he saw his son on the ground. What's going on? Marco was about to cry when Lovelane stretched out her small hand and pointed at him. He is a bad kid. She turned to the vassals, trying to make her words clear. He said Dubald is a trash heap. As soon as these words came out, the scene was silent. Lovelane thought, oh no, I'm done for. Nobles shouldn't use violence. Was I too impulsive? But the next second, the maids and vassals were all deeply moved. Did the young lady get angry to protect us? Lovelane was stunned. Actually, I just wanted to hit him. Marco hurriedly quibbled. Nonsense, you're lying. How could I say such a thing? A cold voice suddenly rang out. How dare you speak wildly to the child I protect? The Duke of Dubald walked over slowly with a frosty face. The Baron was scared out of his wits and repeatedly explained that Marco would never be so rude. The Duke approached step by step, his eyes like knives. Since your father insists so much, I'll give you a chance. Even if I cut off your tongue and gouge out your eyes, can you still guarantee that what you say is true? Of course. If you can't justify it, then the price will not be borne by you alone. Marco's face turned pale, and he trembled all over. I'll ask you again. Is what my child said true or false? It's true. Marco admitted, trembling. The Baron's legs went weak. He grabbed the Duke's clothes. Kneeling, he begged for mercy. However, the father and son were dragged away in disgrace. Laughlin Yangzu is arrogant. In the eyes of the retainers, the boy's behavior is to maintain Dubal's reputation. It was a heroic act that had to be punished. They all offered words of praise. The young lady's calm demeanor is truly amazing. Laughlin felt a little guilty amidst the praise, but these retainers are all the Duke's confidants. If he leaves a good impression on the confidants, would the Duke also think he's pretty good? How cute! A retainer reached out to rub his head. Laughlin subconsciously hid behind the Duke. The other retainers laughed. Don't you know? The young lady is afraid of strange men, but she is especially close to the Duke. Thinking about it carefully, he only seems to smile at you. It's enviable that you are so trusted. The Duke's lips twitched almost imperceptibly, but his tone was deliberately indifferent. How troublesome. Laughlin listened, but felt a little frustrated. But fortunately, after hardship comes happiness. Ever since he won the favor of the retainers, everything has changed. Even administrative officials he had never met began to take care of him. Laughlin finally got permission to go shopping. Walking down the bustling street with the maids, Laughlin was very excited. When passing a toy store, a rabbit doll in the window caught his attention. According to the time, it's about time this one was released. When you hug this kind of doll tightly, it will make a sound saying I like you. In the first life, he had longed to have one. But the Duke Amity who adopted him at that time said, if you donate the money to buy this doll, you can save more hungry people. Even so, do you still want to buy it? Laughlin had to shake his head. I don't want it. Duke Amity showed a satisfied smile. Very good. What you gained today is not a doll, but a heart of charity. But Laughlin really wanted to have it. However, later, he watched the Duke give the doll to an 18-year-old girl, watching her smile like a child. The Duke's smile was extremely bright. Miss, it's rare for you to come out. Do you want to buy some toys? Laughlin's heart was full. Laya is so gentle. The store is full of toys. Laya generously said, Miss, pick whatever you want. Anything is fine. Laughlin looked around curiously. Suddenly, something tightly attracted his attention. The regrets experienced in the previous life will be fulfilled in this life. Laughlin finally has the opportunity to own the doll he has been thinking about. But just as he was overjoyed, something else firmly caught his eye. A delicate carnation corsage. That's right, Thanksgiving is coming soon. On this special day, children will offer carnations to their parents to express their gratitude from the bottom of their hearts. Laughlin was in a dilemma. He wanted to buy carnations to give away, but he couldn't bear to part with the beautiful toy. After hesitating for a long time, Laughlin decided to reluctantly give up the toy. I want to buy a carnation corsage. He can't waste this rare opportunity. Leo was a little puzzled. Why does Miss want to buy this? Because I heard the nanny say before, to give it to someone you like. Laughlin replied seriously. But his little abacus was ringing loudly in his heart. If I give it to Laya, maybe the daily snack portion in the future can be doubled. As for the Duke, thinking of his annoyed expression last time, it's better not to bother him and make him hate me. Laughlin held the carnation and planned to give Laya a surprise when he returned to the castle. Inside the Duke's mansion, the carnation corsage on Count Lochner's chest attracted the attention of several retainers. A carnation corsage. Did your daughter give it to you? Lochner immediately puffed out his chest with a proud face. Of course, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Isn't the happiness of raising children reflected at this moment? Yes. What is fame and wealth? There is no happiness in the world more precious than the love of children. At this time, the Duke walked towards them. The retainers smiled and greeted him. One of them greeted him, Duke. When you receive a carnation, you must also feel this kind of happiness, right? Those who have never received a carnation are really pitiful. Don't you think so? Duke, I don't know. The Duke's answer made the three of them serious at the same time. I have never received a carnation corsage. The Duke lowered his eyes. A faint loneliness in his eyes, not even once. But you have 3 sons. The retainer awkwardly chuckled. Oh, boys are naturally careless, right? They only know how to say thank you. I have never heard such words either. The retainers completely shut up. They even felt sorry for the Duke. Just then, Laughlin walked in with a carnation in his hand. With light steps. The retainers' eyes lit up. They immediately became excited. Sir, look, it's a carnation. You can finally receive one too. The Duke looked up, but saw Laughlin flinching. The retainers became even more enthusiastic, trying to create a good atmosphere. The young lady must have a deep gratitude for her protector to personally go and buy flowers. It's really touching. The Duke quietly watched Laughlin. A hint of imperceptible anticipation flashed in his eyes. Count Lochner whispered a reminder to the young lady. Now that we're here, give it to her now. Laughlin looked down at the small corsage in her hand. Her cheeks flushed slightly. This is the first time I've given someone a gift. She took a deep breath, mustered her courage, and held up the corsage to give to Laya. Thank you for always taking care of me. Laya didn't expect this at all. She was so touched she didn't know what to do. The Duke's face turned frighteningly dark. The retainers didn't dare to speak. No one expected the flower to be given to the maid. Laya's eyes turned red. Her voice choked. Thank you, miss. I will treasure it. Leffelin hugged Laya tightly, enjoying the heartwarming moment. But somehow, he felt a chill on the back of his head. The Duke tried to make his expression look less terrifying. Don't you have one for me, Leffelin? Leffelin smiled sweetly and said, no. Because the Duke thinks I'm a nuisance, so he didn't buy one. I'm a good girl, right? This answer was impeccable. The Duke was so choked up he almost couldn't breathe. And that night, all the residents of the Dubal territory received a notice full of personal emotion. Thanksgiving celebrations are prohibited from today onwards. In the following days, it is necessary to wear that corsage no matter what you do. Leffelin saw this and felt warm inside. It feels so good to have your feelings truly felt. At this moment, Fu Guan came to take Leffelin to the Duke's office. It was the day to report the recent situation to the Empress Dowager. Leffelin walked out of the room holding the adjutant's hand, but met workers carrying goods in the corridor. Miss, these are gifts to be presented to His Majesty the Emperor for his birthday banquet. Every year at this time, the nobles are busy with congratulatory gifts. Even Duke Amity, who has no interest in this, will send a gift out of courtesy. Even that Duke Valois has to borrow money everywhere. Belli spends money casually, but is extremely stingy at heart, especially towards Leffelin. Leffelin remembered one time when she, without knowing any better, bought an expensive pen. Respect and war Valois bomb. You parasite who lives off others. You want to come out of the attic too? He was locked up for 3 days. At that time, the Duke's youngest son asked his brother in confusion, Brother, can't you buy a pen? Of course you can. What parents would hate their children buying school supplies? Then why is father angry with Leffelin? Because he is not father's biological child. Yes, precisely because he is not his own. Even the smallest things will be hated. So now he must work harder to do things that can win Dubald. The Duke's favor? If it drags on any longer, the chance to be formally adopted may slip away. The door to the study was pushed open. Leffelin ran towards the Duke with a smile. But today, the Duke, wearing glasses, looked even colder and more serious than usual. His footsteps hesitated, afraid to go forward. The adjutant leaned over to comfort him. The Duke is not angry with you. Really, really. It's just that next time, please prepare to carnations. Only then did Leffelin realize in a daze that he had disappointed the Duke. Before, all the money spent on shopping belonged to the Dubald family. He bought so many things, but he didn't prepare one for the Duke. Leffelin immediately regretted it. What should I do now? Go buy something again. But buying something at the last minute would seem like deliberately trying to please him. It's better to do something that can really make him happy. He desperately searched his memory for useful information, hoping to help the Duke. Just then, on the desk, an exquisite box caught his attention. Inside lay a black gemstone with a dim luster. This is probably the birthday gift for the Emperor. Leffelin unconsciously approached, examining it carefully. Suddenly, the surface of the teacher rippled with a strange light. A 6-pointed star array suddenly appeared and rushed towards him. The earth shook violently. Leffelin felt all his strength being drained away. A voice pierced through his body and went straight to the depths of his mind. My child. The girl just glanced at the black stone, and a strange magic circle suddenly rushed into his body. And a desperate voice rang in his mind. My child. Leffelin suddenly came back to his senses and was horrified to find that his body was moving uncontrollably. He reached out and grabbed the strange stone. He tried desperately to break free, but was powerless. The adjutant's face changed drastically. This is Newlight. Leffelin had lived for several lifetimes and had heard this name countless times. It is a relic left by the evil god, a realm that must not be touched. But the next second, Newlight actually shattered into powder. Leffelin was struck by lightning. He tried to explain that he didn't mean to, but in his panic, he couldn't even say a complete sentence. The adjutant also tried to explain for him, but the Duke frowned and sighed annoyedly. What a nuisance, always causing trouble. Go back to your room. Leffelin didn't expect that he wanted to please the Duke, but instead caused a disaster. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became, and he fainted directly. In the darkness, Leffelin saw a familiar figure. It was Duke Amity, who was once kind in his heart, the wise and upright father. He deeply understood that after becoming his adopted daughter, even if he was forced to give up a lot, as long as he called his name, and smiled at him, Leffelin felt it was all worth it. But between the two, there was always an invisible bridge. The Duke gave him a place to live and occasionally dined with him among the nobles. But that was all. He never truly regarded him as his own child, never sincerely accepted him, until Mina appeared. Mina could naturally call him dad, could hold his arm and act spoiled, and the Duke would always look at her with doubting eyes, revealing that kind of joy, a happy and radiant smile that Fulin had never seen before. Yes, who told you that Mina is the real child of destiny, is able to save disasters, and bring the source of hope to the world? The scene changes. A hand actually stretched out from the twisted darkness. Stupid thing. Do you think I can't find you if you hide? You audacious wretch should die in the street. The Valois Duke's family. A cold face appeared before his eyes. Le Foulin knelt on the ground, begging for forgiveness. I was wrong, please don't hit me anymore. Le Foulin woke up with a start. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. It was just a dream. Recalling everything that happened before he fainted, he was filled with regret. He actually broke Newt. What should I do now? The Dubald family servants are all very nice to me. The Duke is not as terrible as rumored. But if even they hate me, then I'm completely finished. In the evening, thunder suddenly roared. A bolt of lightning flashed across the night sky. At that moment, what did Le Foulin see? When the maid, Leah, came in with clean clothes, the doctor had already been there, but said he couldn't find the cause of the illness and only prescribed some antipyretics. But when they walked into the room, they found that Le Foulin was gone. The Duke quickly learned the news and immediately sent people to search the entire castle. But they couldn't find that small figure. Did he run off somewhere again to find bread to eat? We've already checked. No. Could it be an assassin targeting the Dubald family? Or was it done by council elders who hate the child of destiny? The Duke pondered every possibility. A dozen minutes later, the news finally came. Le Foulin was standing in the garden outside the castle, surrounded by servants. Leah hurried over. She saw that he was soaked in the rain, his clothes covered in mud, but his little hand was holding something. The Duke walked up to him, but before he could speak, Le Foulin timidly raised his palm, holding a small carnation. He tried to force a flattering smile, but tears were already streaming down his face. Do you like flowers? Sir, he couldn't help but cry loudly. I'm sorry, I did wrong. Please forgive me. I'm really sorry, before. The Duke's disgusted tone terrified him. He was afraid of being abandoned again, afraid of having to continue that endless cycle of despair. The Duke looked at the girl's pale face and was speechless for a moment at her hands and feet scraped from picking flowers. He regretted it, regretted his indifference, which had hurt a child's heart so much. The spacious bathroom. Le Foulin sat on the side uneasily. He had caused such a big disaster. Would the Duke forgive him just because of a flower? Just as he was thinking wildly, the Duke walked over with a basin of warm water. Under his surprised gaze, he gently washed the mud off his feet. Does it hurt? Le Foulin was overwhelmed by the favor. No, it doesn't hurt. The Duke's movements became even gentler. Don't run around the castle at night in the future. There wasn't a trace of blame in his tone. Le Foulin asked cautiously, Sir, are you not angry? The Duke looked at him for a moment and gently tapped his forehead. I'm not angry. His expression was so gentle. In that instant, Le Foulin's fear of him suddenly disappeared without a trace. In the days that followed, the Duke really wasn't angry and didn't blame him. Instead, he put the small carnation in a vase and placed it on his desk. He even took the time to have dinner with her. This day, Le Foulin, accompanied by the maids, came to the Duke's library to pass the time. They enthusiastically took turns recommending books, but started arguing because of disagreements. Le Foulin quietly slipped to the side and had to pretend not to be literate. Why not pick a book with a nice cover to look at first? Suddenly, he noticed a book without a title, a particularly strange book. Le Foulin curiously opened the book and began to read. Emperor Fried's most sacred achievement was defeating the evil god servant, Yifan. According to the records left by Yifan, to manifest the power of the evil god, 2 conditions are needed. One is to come into contact with something divine. This is the key to awakening the sleeping power. The second is to obtain beauty, so that the power can be exerted. Reading this, Le Foulin felt a sense of unease. Why does everything always have to do with the evil god? The Empire's guardian god was originally the upright Niliab. To protect humanity, he sealed the evil god. However, as time passed, the seal became weak and needed to be reinforced. Then the power of the child of destiny, Mina, is needed. And in the first life, Le Foulin was the sacrifice for that sealing ceremony. Recalling the pain that went deep into his bones at the time, it was simply worse than death. Leah came to the library. Miss, the Duke is going to choose a gift for His Majesty. Would you like to come along? A little girl goes out in the rain late at night, just to give a man a carnation. Laughlin's actions finally touched the Duke's cold heart. Unconsciously, he began to care about this special child. Laughlin arrives at Duke Dubalt's Mansion's reception pavilion hall. Behind the throne hangs a huge tapestry with ancient characters written by the founding emperor. To commend Duke Dubald for his great achievements in pacifying the land of soldiers. This tapestry is like a symbol of the Duke's strong military power, attracting countless nobles to imitate. They hang similar ones in their residences as decorations. Greetings, Duke Dubald. A man dressed as a merchant enters the hall. Laughlin is instantly stunned. How could it be him? Turba, the legendary figure who climbed up from a kingdom slave, a miraculous trader. But in his past life memories, this person later sold for selling fake paintings to the royal family and had repeatedly committed fraud before. Laughlin became secretly vigilant. Turba respectfully salutes. I am deeply honored to be summoned by the Duke. We need something that can replace the evil god's relic. None it. Nanak has found the right person. Only I, Turba, can find such a thing. They moved a wooden box onto the stage. Inside lies a milky white stone slab. Please take a look, my lord. This is a stone slab where ancient gods descended. The retainers looked delighted. Compared to the evil god's things, such a sacred object is more suitable as his majesty's birthday gift. The Duke frowned almost imperceptibly. Is this really a divine jade slab? Turba said firmly, of course. History has similar records, and it has passed the temple's test. Containing powerful divine power. I risked my life to bring it back from the ancient plateau. Although I was attacked by monsters on the way, I never gave up. I always believed that someone would need his help. The Duke was expressionless. Just tell me the price. Turba slowly stretched out a finger. 100 million. Everyone's face changed. 100 million. That's already a national budget level amount. Even Dubald cannot easily use such a huge sum of money. But right now, besides this, there is nothing that can replace Nunnet. Just as everyone was in a dilemma, a clear voice rang out, "Let me take a look." Turba glanced at Laughlin and sneered. So it's the child of destiny. It's my honor to serve you. Please feel free to admire it. Laughlin pretended to be naive and approached, but actually examined it carefully. Right? Turba smiled nonchalantly. How is it? Can you feel the divine power? Since you are the child of destiny, maybe you can even read the ancient characters. The retainers couldn't help but frown. A child who can't even speak fluently. How could he possibly understand ancient characters? Just kidding. Ancient characters have long been lost. How could anyone understand them? Just then, Laughlin read out the words on the stone slab word by word. Mr. Naden, who worked hard and dedicated his life to his family, rests here. The whole place was deathly silent. Turba instantly froze. Laughlin pointed at the stone slab and looked at him with a smile. Turba, you're such an idiot. Why would you write something like this on it? This is not a stone slab recording the divine realm at all. It's just a tombstone. The retainers looked at each other in disbelief. Miss, how can you read the contents on it? Originally, ancient characters are difficult for even the big shots in the temple to understand. There are very few recognizable characters. But 10 years later, Mana suddenly appeared and gradually deciphered this forgotten language. Even so, only 3 people eventually mastered it. The future Crown Prince Adrian Lulge, Duke Dubald's eldest son, John Dubald, and the last one is Laughlin. Laughlin's ability to understand ancient characters caused an uproar in the audience. Miss, how did you do it? Where did you learn it? And he had already prepared the answer. Tilting his head, he showed a pure expression. I don't know why. I just can understand it. That innocent and cute look instantly dispelled everyone's doubts. After all, he is a 4-year-old child. Who would suspect him of lying? And that's how Mina answered in her previous life. People at that time did not have any doubts. What's more, he also has the identity of the child of destiny. Turbo was not calm. You're talking nonsense. The temple can prove that this is a divine jade slab. How can you prove that you really understand ancient characters? Historically, only the founding emperor was proficient in this kind of writing. What makes you, a child, think you can? Laughlin gently raised the corner of his mouth, turned around and pointed to the tapestry hanging high in the hall, and loudly read out the ancient characters embroidered on it. The one who bears the mission. May blessings be upon Lin Shen, Floyd, de Enes Sherman. Duke Carrod suddenly clenched the armrest. It's the founding emperor's real name. Everyone's expression changed. The Thai emperor's middle name, Sherman, is the justice of the tribal bloodline, and that tribe is said to have been created by evil spirits. Even mentioning it is now taboo. The royal family has long erased this name from all records. Of course, this very few people includes Duke Dubald. Laughlin can read it, which undoubtedly proves that he does understand ancient characters. This is too absurd. Could he really be the child of destiny? I thought he was just a little smart. I didn't expect him to be so amazing. So that Turbo was playing us. Seeing the scam being exposed, Twerba hurriedly quibbled. I came here under the guidance of the same god. The Duke sneered. How ridiculous. Asking a child to produce evidence. When it comes to yourself, you only bring out the will of God. Twerba completely panicked, so scared that cold sweat dripped down. Laughlin shook his head. Give it up, uncle. You're dead. The Duke slowly got up. His eyes sharpened. Looks like I've been quite popular lately. Even flies want to climb up. Guards, take this priest, full of divine aura, into the prison. He must be made to tell the exact answer about that stone tablet. Even if we split his body open, we must confirm whether there is arrogant mystery hidden inside. The man used a tombstone to pretend to be a sacred object, attempting to defraud 100 million, but was exposed on the spot by the girl, and was imprisoned by the Duke. Twerba, who was afraid of death, confessed everything before being tortured. It turned out he had always wanted to buy a sacred object from the Pope, but took the risk only because the price was extremely high. Setting up this absurd scam, Laughlin was curious. What kind of sacred object is it that would make him design such a reckless scam? And seeing the drawing, he was stunned in an instant. Etwell. This is exactly the sacred object that allowed Mina to exert amazing power in her previous life. It can be called the symbol of the Child of Destiny, but different from Mina's Platinum 1. The Etwell on the drawing is golden yellow. The gemstone inlaid at the end also seems to have other secrets. Could this not be Mina's? A second Etwell has appeared. Now it makes sense why Twerba is willing to go crazy for it. It also makes sense. It's just that this sacred object is currently sunk in the deep sea, and it's still in the neighboring country's sea. The distance from the Dibelin Sea border is less than an hour. Because of this, the temples representing the Empire's gods cannot directly intervene. Otherwise, if you are not careful, it will become the fuse that ignites the war. A trace of determination flashed in the Duke's eyes. Since it is Etwell, it must be in our hands. Are you going to negotiate a deal with the king of the neighboring country? The Duke's mouth raised an aggressive arc. Why bother so much? Just start a war. A casual sentence, but made Laughlin's heart tremble. He truly deserves to be the famous Duke Dubald. I still have to be obedient in front of him in the future. The adjutant smiled and said, all this is thanks to Miss. If you hadn't broken Nunit, we probably would never have known. There is a second Etwell. The adjutant's words made Laughlin slightly stunned. Does the Duke also think so? If that's the case, can I ask him to adopt me now? Laughlin mustered up the courage, gently tugged on the Duke's sleeve. Sir, can you hug me? The Duke lowered his head in slight surprise, seeing the girl's blue eyes, full of pleading. Laughlin will be a good girl. I can grow up well on my own, never cause trouble. Her voice got softer and softer, but still tried to finish. So, Duke, are you willing to be my dad? The Duke did not answer immediately, just stared at her quietly. For a long time, he reached out and gently hugged the girl. Is this how you hug? Tears welled up in Laughlin's eyes, but her heart was warm, although there was no clear response. But as long as he doesn't hate me, even willing to smile at me, that's enough. A few days later, the Duke was processing official business in his study. Laughlin was barefoot, holding up a pair of socks, looking over with bright eyes. I can put on my own socks now. It turns out that Laughlin not only has unclear speech, her limbs are also uncoordinated. After many practices, she learned to put on socks by herself, and couldn't wait to show it to the Duke. The Duke propped his chin, with a faint smile in his eyes. Then, let me see. Laughlin suddenly became a little nervous. The Duke no longer rejects her as much as he did at first. As long as I perform well, maybe I could really be adopted. I must prove that I am not a burden. With the encouragement of the servants, Laughlin followed the steps she practiced. Step 1, open the sock. Step 2, put your toes together. Step 3, pull up hard. But the sock got stuck on the heel. What's going on? It was clearly very smooth during practice, under the gentle gaze of the retainers. Laughlin used all her strength to pull the socks up, but the socks didn't move. Looking at everyone trying hard to hold back their laughter, Laughlin was greatly hit. How embarrassing. Don't be discouraged, miss. You really succeeded before. The Duke looked at her flushed face and spoke with his usual strictness. Staying in my castle. I don't allow anyone to make no progress. Laughlin understood the Duke's strictness. He is even more so to his 3 sons. The second and youngest sons have already been sent to the capital's academy for the gifted. The eldest son is studying at a boarding school in a foreign country. The Duke told Laughlin that during. You have to practice hard while I am inspecting the territory. Okay, I will definitely not let you down. That serious little look made the surrounding retainers feel soft-hearted. I really envy the Duke. Miss really likes you. The Duke's mouth raised slightly as he turned to leave. The next day, the Duke set off to inspect the territory. Laughlin still worked hard to practice putting on socks, looking forward to 20 days later, being able to let the Duke see her growth. Just then, he heard an argument in the corner. This is outrageous. The priests of the temple are entering the port. They came without the Duke's permission. I had no choice. I'm here to take the child. The knight's tone was full of reluctance. It's not too late to take him after the Duke returns. But the person's tone was cold. Currently, the Pope is the child's legal guardian. The guardian takes the child away. No permission from the Duke is needed at all. Leffelin, who was eavesdropping, felt cold all over. Am I going to be taken away? Dubold, the reason why the family can achieve so much in a short time, brilliant achievements, is entirely due to their unique and strict education methods. Family members are cultivated from childhood to be ruthless investors, and Theodore Dubold is the closest to the perfect family member in the family's history. He possesses unmatched magic and a perfect, balanced body. In just a few years of succession, he doubled the family's wealth, even completely abandoning emotions, to reach the perfect form pursued by the family. Inside the regional inspection office, the Duke's knights are having a meal. Suddenly, a slight magical fluctuation caught their attention. Soon they locked onto a panicked man in the crowd. Magical items not for guard use are prohibited. Don't you know? Facing the knight's stern questioning, the man hurriedly hugged the thing tightly in his arms. This is for communication. Miss Leflin's maid asked. I had to help buy it, but I couldn't, so I handed it over to me. If you can't buy it, you need to use communication magic. Stop making excuses and hand it over for inspection. During the argument, the item was suddenly triggered. The light came on, reflecting Laughlin's soft and cute little face. In the picture, he is following the maid, learning to speak one word at a time seriously. Your Grace. The childish voice paired with the focused look instantly melted the hearts of all the knights. This is too cute. Isn't it? Is this something you specially filmed for me? As a thank you for helping me buy it. The Duke in the distance watched quietly. With a blank expression, Jia Chen quietly approached the Duke. Don't you think Miss is very cute? Most people would think so, right? The Duke suddenly glanced at him coldly. The whole room suddenly fell silent. He doesn't think anyone is cute. He doesn't even know what that emotion is. It's just that the child who looks like a 1-year-old always inadvertently attracts his attention. Seeing him frown and say nothing, the knight who came to report hurriedly changed the subject. Your Grace, recently there has been a group of robbers outside the territory, rampaging around. The Duke's expression was impatient. It's not my territory. What does it have to do with me? That being said, but they often kidnap children. That's why your subordinate is a little worried. Before he finished speaking, the Duke's eyes darkened. Leffelin being captured by robbers appeared, teary-eyed, begging him for help. His expression changed. His voice tightened. Leave no one alive who dares to cause trouble near my territory. The knights immediately obeyed. What range should we clear? Just up to the border of the Loxir territory. But he suddenly remembered. In the Loxir territory, there is a popular garden. Noble ladies often go to play. What if Leffelin encounters robbers there? Wait. It wouldn't hurt to extend the favor to the surrounding businesses. Clean up the Loxir territory as well. But after thinking carefully, Leffelin might want to go horseback riding when he grows up. There is a famous place for horseback riding through that territory. What if he is in the plain Jade Stream? At the end of the plain, there is also a river where you can play in the water. What if he wants to go play there in the future? In a short moment, dozens of Leffelin's scenarios flashed through the Duke's mind, where he might be in danger. Finally, he ordered with a blank expression, just wipe out everything up to Nokish. Because of a careless remark, the knights had to travel hundreds of kilometers away and began a long journey to conquer the robbers. And in the Duke's mansion, Leffelin learned that the temple was going to take him back. Completely panicked, he took out the elephant backpack that his retainer grandfather gave him, decided to carry out the escape plan in advance. Facing the maid Leah's inquiry, he could only keep his mouth shut. He has to do this himself. Once taken away by the temple, he will be sent to the Valois Duke's mansion. Entering that nightmare-like place, he will never be able to escape again. The Empress Dowager will definitely stand on the side of the temple. The Duke is also unlikely to oppose the temple for him and the royal family. What's more, he won't be back for another 2 weeks. He sneaked into the kitchen and asked the maid to help him fill up the water, then ran to the snack store prepared for him by the Duke, desperately stuffing candy and biscuits into his backpack. Finally, he crawled behind the hidden curtains. There was a whole bag of money hidden there. All the pocket money that the retainers usually gave him. Miss, what are you playing? Leah's voice suddenly came from behind. I'm not packing my luggage. Leffelin panicked and blurted out. Leah looked at him lovingly, gently hugged him in her arms. Miss, this is so that you can be in a better environment. Receive parental love, an opportunity to grow up healthy. You are so cute. People there will definitely like you. But Leffelin knew clearly. No one in the Valois Duke family likes him at all. He would rather fall into a cesspool than get close to that place. But he couldn't ask Leah for help. After all, Leah is just an ordinary maid. Helping rashly will put him in danger. Hearing that Leffelin was about to leave, the maids were all reluctant to part with him. They hugged each other and cried. Leffelin looked at everyone, remembering the bits and pieces in the Duke's mansion, compared to the tragic memories of the past few lives. This place is simply like heaven. Once I leave, I'll never see such warm people again. If the Duke were here, would there still be a glimmer of hope? Thinking of this, he finally couldn't help but break down and cry. Duke, I miss you so much. Leah silently used a communication magic tool to record the scene, but no matter how much he cried, reality couldn't be changed. The people from the temple had finally arrived. After learning that he was about to be taken away by the temple, Lefferin had been immersed in anxiety, although he didn't want to at all. The moment of parting finally came. You all said goodbye reluctantly, while stuffing food and blankets into his luggage, and the priest of the temple walked forward with a hypocritical smile. I came by order of the Pope. Miss Lefferin, are you doing well here? In a place without family protection, you must have suffered a lot. But don't worry, we have found someone willing to raise you with love. Someone, Duke Valois will become your loving father. Kifurin instantly turned pale. What raise with love? That person will only treat him as a slave. And the temple chose the Valois family? Just two. Have an ally to control him when he awakens his power as the child of destiny in the future. Remembering the painful memories of the second life, Lefferin trembled with fear. But the priest had already grabbed his wrist to take him away. Lefferin subconsciously resisted. I don't want to go, but the man's rough grip hurt him. Leia wanted to step forward but was stopped, seeing that Lefferin still refused to obey. The priest finally tore off his hypocritical mask and threatened in a low voice, if you continue to make trouble like this, you will be cursed by the gods. Bad children will be whipped. These words were so similar to Duke Valois's tone in the past that Lefferin was suddenly overwhelmed. The pungent smell of alcohol, the sound of the bell breaking through the air, endless fear in the darkness. Those images flooded his mind, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. The priest pinched his little face, forcing him to look up. What are you doing? Just then, a cold voice came from the door. Take your hands off my daughter. Everyone turned their heads sharply. Duke Dubold was walking in with a gloomy face, his eyes staring closely at the priest. The priest tried to calm himself. Lefferin has been determined to be raised by Duke Valois. Before he could finish speaking, several knights had surrounded him, their swords pointing straight at his throat. The Duke's pressure was suffocating. Did I allow you to speak? Duke! Lefferin looked at him with tears in his eyes. The Duke's eyes fell on his red wrist. His eyes narrowed. The priest's arm was twisted off by the Duke. Go back and tell the temple. From today on, this child will be taken care of by Dubold. The Duke picked up Lefferin. Next time you want to talk about him, at least bring the Holy Knight Order with you. He reached out and wiped away the tears from the girl's eyes. His tone still a little harsh. You look terrible when you cry. At least wash your face to make yourself barely presentable. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the castle with him in his arms. As for that priest, he was thrown out the door by the adjutant. Back to the castle. The housekeeper happily wanted to come to Lefferin, but he shrank in the Duke's arms and didn't move. Only in this embrace could he feel a trace of peace. Leia, Lefferin is just frightened. Let him be comforted for a while. Then you go out. Leia and the housekeeper were stunned at the same time. Are you sure, sir? The Duke looked down at the pitiful little face in his arms, the corners of his mouth raised in a slight arc. Who told him to like me the most? Isn't that right? After the room was left with only them, Lefferin recalled the Duke's words just now. Take your hands off my daughter. Since he said I was his daughter, does that mean I can try again? He asked cautiously. Can I stay here? I can put on my own socks, and I only eat a little bit of food. I will be obedient. Please let me stay here. I will adopt you. Lefferin instantly stared at him blankly. His expression was still calm, but it made people feel so warm. The sound of firewood burning and the pipa gently rang in his ears. That hand stroking his back moved so gently that it made him want to cry. Lefferin was in such a peaceful atmosphere and fell asleep peacefully. A few days later, Lefferin excitedly held a sketchbook. On it was his new name written by Leia. Lefferin Dubold. He was finally officially adopted. And Duke Dubold is really amazing. He clearly broke the hand of the temple priest. But nothing happened. Even the emperor personally came forward to negotiate with the temple to calm things down. Lefferin secretly planned to live here happily for 5 years When he turns 10, he will be able to fully control his thoughts and will no longer turn back into a childish child because of hunger. It won't be too late to leave then. What needs to be done now is to obediently and secretly save some private money. Just then, an old man passed by downstairs. It's Duke Terra Moore of the Senate. Lefulin looked around curiously. Meeting the old man's sharp gaze, Lefulin felt inexplicably nervous. He felt like he had seen him somewhere before. Did you guys draw the curtains, blocking that gaze? It's not good if the young lady is seen by them. She can't be like the young masters, receiving bloodline education in the Senate. It's almost mealtime. Lefulin came to the restaurant and was surprised to find, besides the Duke, there were also two silver-haired boys sitting there. After 3 rebirths, the girl finally achieved her wish, becoming the adopted daughter of Duke Dubald. Under the Duke's introduction, he finally met his two brothers. Delicate features, the second young master, Henry, who always has a gentle smile, and the cold-looking. The third young master, Isa, who seems indifferent to everything, although both Isaac have silver hair and blue eyes. Their temperaments are completely opposite. But what is certain is, they all look like mini versions of the Duke. It's just that the eldest young master is still studying abroad, unable to meet him. The Duke also formally introduced to his two sons. This is Lefulin. Henry smiled slightly, with gentle eyes. Hello, Lefulin. Please take care of him, poked Isaac, who was only focused on eating. Isaac nodded lightly. Lefulin knew in his heart, the 3 sons of Duke Dubald are extraordinary. They don't need to rely on the family aura. They are enough to reach the top with their own strength, the pyramid of the empire. Henry controlled the empire's financial lifeline at a young age. With such skills, he became the commander of a branch family in his early 20s. But Duke Amadir hates him very much, ridiculed him as a cunning fox who exploits legal loopholes, and Isaac relies on his amazing martial arts talent, destined to become one of the 4 knights representing the empire in the future. One of them also aroused strong resentment from Duke Valois. However, these radiant young masters will all become Mina's support in the future and treat him like a brother. Because of this, in the fate of the previous life, when Lefulin bears the charge of attempted murder of Mina, he was very grateful that he had not been seen by the young masters of the Dubald family. Otherwise, he would have been torn to pieces long ago. But fortunately, they are not Mina's supporters yet. As long as he is not hated, there is still a chance for everything. He tried to show friendliness, hoping to get along with them peacefully. However, when the 3 of them were alone after dinner, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Isaac kept staring at Lefulin with a straight face, and Henry ignored him. Lefulin was a little flustered by the staring. Just then, Isaac suddenly opened his mouth. Hey, do you know how to eat carrots? Lefulin was stunned. He nodded angrily. Then are you a rabbit? Henry sighed after hearing this. What an idiot. These words were heard by Lefulin, who was quietly approaching. He peeked curiously. He saw Henry writing on the paper with a pen. The paper was full of complex formulas and numbers. Henry noticed his gaze and asked gently, is there anything I can do for you? No, I'm just curious about what you're doing. Isaac snorted. Want to secretly make money again, right? This is to establish a reserve fund. Idiot, Henry retorted calmly. The domestic and international situation is becoming turbulent. At this time, before he could finish speaking, Isaac interrupted. I know. We have to buy iron shields quickly, right? I learned it last time. Once the war breaks out, the price of iron frames used to make weapons will rise first. Henry was very helpless. That's a businessman's thinking. As a nobleman, we should donate iron cannons to the country during wartime. What should really be stored is gold. Currency will depreciate in wartime. Listening to the 2 young men, seriously discussing economy and war, Lefulin seemed to have stepped into a different world. How can children of this age understand these things? Isaac couldn't win against Henry. Suddenly turned his head and glared at Lefulin. Hey, if you dare to ignore me, or say I don't understand gold, you're dead. Lefulin quickly nodded vigorously. Isaac was satisfied now. Don't pretend to be something just because you are the child of destiny. I'm super awesome. Henry cast a pitying look, then looked at Lefulin. War never shows mercy. The Dubald family is the same. We don't care about blood ties, nor are we obsessed with parent-child relationships. Then, for people who don't even have a drop of blood relationship, isn't it even more dangerous? He still had a gentle arc on the corner of his mouth, but his words were a subtle threat. I hope you don't lose your life because of temporary greed. However, Lefulin didn't dare to eat much just now. He was quietly sitting down, hungry. The feeling made him completely unable to understand the meaning of Henry's words, but he knew he had to answer well. That way he would be liked. So he raised his face and showed an exceptionally bright smile and answered loudly, yes. Henry and Isaac at the same time. The government's remarks just now were clearly a warning. Why is he still smiling so happily? After Lefulin left with the maid, Henry's expression became serious. What's wrong with that child? Is he pretending to be innocent? Or does he know how to hide better than he looks? The eldest brother could read and write at the age of 3. Although Isaac is an idiot in his eyes, he is also far beyond ordinary people. There are many snake-like people in the academy. Cunning children. And Lefuling can know the secrets of the temple and the royal family. The secret of the room. It is impossible for him to know nothing, especially since he received such a warning a month ago. That child is quite something. He already treats the Duke's mansion as his own territory. If he is formally adopted, your position, young master, may be in danger. It seems we must pay more attention. Isaac, who was standing beside him, was still savoring Leflin's reaction. He couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Don't tell me you're already charmed by him. Isaac's cheeks flushed slightly. He quickly denied, no way. He's not cute at all. I just wanted to pinch his chubby little cheeks. He won't easily like anyone. Like those adults. I need to teach him a lesson. I need to teach him a lesson.